Today, we look again at how it is possible to become a millionaire even if you're on a normal salary. So hello and welcome back to our channel. In our last video, we finished off our recent series on gold. And so over the course of the last 2 years or so, we've now covered most of the key topics which can help you make the very best of your finances and significantly increase the chance that you will become wealthy as a result. As I said several months back, the point of this channel is to give you a free course in effective financial literacy and the key information you need to actually take action and make a big difference to your life. So today I'm going to get into some of the specifics around what this can mean for you over time. Specifically, I'm going to show why people on a median British salary can realistically expect to build to 6 or even 7 figures if they get investment right. And one of the biggest things that prevents people from actually getting this result is the fact that so many people are entirely cynical that it is even possible. This reality is all too clear to me based on so many of the comments I see online, and particularly when I do podcast interviews, for example. But as I'm going to show in this video, this is a massive shame and entirely the wrong way to think, based on the evidence of 2 centuries, roughly since capital markets were invented. It is a huge failure of our education systems that so many people have these beliefs, and not least because this makes life so much harder for tens of millions of people, and perhaps even more importantly, is actually a big part of why the UK economy is in such a terrible state at the moment too. This is a huge part of our mission as a company. So, to fight the cynics, today I'm going to show you a worked example of what is possible. We're going to look at what someone on a median income should be able to save and invest each month, and what this can mean for them over time. And the first thing that it's probably worth doing is just to quickly clarify specifically what a median or what the median income is. So the median, as many of you will know, is a kind of average. And when it comes to income statistics, it tends to be more representative of what most people actually earn than another kind of average called the arithmetic mean, which is arguably the more mathematically pure way of calculating an average. So to show this in numbers, imagine you worked out the mean or arithmetic mean for 5 people who were each earning £10,000, £20,000, £30,000, £40,000 and £1 million a year, respectively. So the mean average, mathematical average in this example is fully £220,000 because you add up what everyone earns and divide that by the 5 people in the sample. So this would give us £1.1 million divided by 5, which is £220,000. This average is mathematically correct, but as you can see, it gives us a pretty misleading picture of what these 5 people earn, to put it mildly. Even though 4 out of 5 of these people earn less than £50,000, the pure maths, suggests that their average income is £220,000 because the one very high earner skews the number. The median average value is simply the middle number out of the data series. So in this example, the median income is therefore £30,000 as compared to the mean, which is £220,000 as we've seen. So that's quite a difference, even though they are both valid and mathematically correct averages. So the median number isn't distorted by any very, very high or indeed very, very low earners. And so it gives us a more accurate sense of what a real kind of average salary is for most people. And as we're all too painfully aware, particularly at the moment, there is real income inequality in the world, which is why policymakers, economists, and journalists tends to prefer to use median income when talking about the economy and making policy decisions. And by the way, as an aside, I will be returning to the subject of income and indeed wealth inequality in the reasonably near future, given what an important topic it is for all of us, and also just how much nonsense is being written about it at the moment. So please watch out for that. For now, however, we just need to know that the median income is probably a more useful average for us analytically than the mean income for the purposes of what most people may or may not be able to achieve with investment. So moving on. In my second book, Live on Less, Invest the Rest, I provided a worked example for people on a median income of £36,000, which was the correct median income at the time of writing it. The number today is slightly higher at just over £37,000, But I'm going to use that £36,000 number, firstly to be conservative, and also so I can use the same numbers as I did last time too. So let's look at what is possible for someone on that £36,000 median or average salary if they sort investment out, and if they do that in the sort of way we've looked at throughout this video series. So to do this, we need to have a quick look at what they can do with their pension and ISA accounts, the two key investment accounts that anyone should be using to build wealth. So when it comes to their pension, for some years now, most employers have been legally obliged to automatically enroll most of their staff in a workplace pension of some kind. This is called auto-enrollment, as you may know. And since auto-enrollment was introduced, most people should be investing a minimum of 5% of their qualifying gross income each month into that workplace pension, with their employer then adding at least another 3%. To keep the maths easy, this would imply that someone on that median income of £36,000 a year would be investing about £125 a month themselves, and about £25 of which is free money tax relief from the government, by the way, for now at least, and then getting another £75 a month from their employer, for a total of around £200 a month. And it's worth dwelling on the fact that fully half of what you're getting here is free money from the government and from your employer, which is part of why it's so important to make sure you get to grips with your pension generally. Where else in life can you get free money after all? And now let's look at what they might be able to do over and above that pension with a stocks and shares ISA, for example. So the person here will have take-home pay of just over £2,300 a month. And again, to keep the maths easy, let's assume that they choose to then invest £200 of that each month in a stocks and shares ISA. So that £200 is actually some way less than the 10% of take-home pay most financial commentators recommend that you should be saving and investing. And the key point here is that across the piece, this would imply that across their pension and ISA accounts together, someone on a median British income of £36,000 a year could be investing around £400 a month in total, even when choosing to invest less than 10% of their take-home pay in a stocks and shares ISA over and above their occupational pension. And fully a quarter of that money will be coming from the government and from their employer. So now let's look at what that £400 a month might deliver over time. And I'm going to assume that through the cycle, through an economic cycle over many, many years of investment, they can make about 8% a year. If someone invests regularly and automatically over many years, some years they'll make more than that and some years a bit less. But 8% isn't miles away from what you can realistically achieve in the long run with the right approach to investment, as I've shown throughout this video series. And as a reminder, US shares have delivered more than 10% a year for the last century. Now, you do have to take account of inflation, which I've covered in many of our videos already, but 8% is still a number which can give us a strong sense of what might actually be possible. So here I'm showing a great website called thecalculatorsite.com, which is well worth being aware of generally as you think about all of these things. And if we plug in £400 a month invested every month at a return of 8% a year, it can show us what that can build to over a chosen period of time. So over 30 years, say from the age of 30 to the age of 60, someone doing this would have built a pot of nearly £568,000. And someone very organised who managed to get this sorted in their mid-20s and managed to do it from, say, 25 and then retire at 65 could build to a pot of more like £1.3 million. And remember, this is all on a median or average British income. And crucially, it's worth dwelling on the fact that over the 30 years, around 423,000 of that 568,000 pot has come from your investment returns, not from the money you've allocated each month. And for the person who managed to do this for 40 years, that number would be more than 1.1 million of the 1.3 million that they end up with. This is how powerful and life-changing investing can, and I would argue should be, for everyone, at least for far more people than are currently doing it. At this point of the video, I think it's really important for me to take some criticisms of this stance head on. All too many people nowadays are listening to the siren song of how pointless all of this is. And looking at this specific example, it's very easy for the Gary Stevensons of this world to pour cold water on what might be possible. They might argue that 8% is an unrealistic number, or that inflation is going to eat up all of your return, or that saving and investing every month for 30 or 40 years is unlikely or even impossible. But I have to pretty aggressively disagree with these arguments, even if all of them certainly do have some merit. Because the key point here is that whatever the actual numbers end up being over your lifetime, what is almost certainly a statement of fact is that it is far better to do this than not to do it. Rather than obsess about and argue about what specific numbers may or may not come out at the end, the simple fact is that you will be far, far better off if you do this than if you don't do it. Perhaps you won't be able to invest every month for your whole life. Perhaps your investment returns will be lower than 8% on average, and perhaps inflation will be horrible. But this just makes it even more important for you to invest if you want to maximize the chance that you're going to become wealthy. In my view, there's just as much of a chance that investment returns in the future could actually be pretty solid, as human progress and technological development deliver amazing things and a great deal of wealth as a result. Human progress is the most important investment theme of history, as I've said many times throughout this video series. And my own view is that there is a chance that economic growth in the decades ahead could actually be some way better than many of us expect. So I just spent 3 years writing a book called Our Future is Biotech, all about the biotech sector, for example, where I argued, hopefully in a reasonably evidence-based way, that biotechnologies are likely to create an enormous amount of wealth for us all in the next few decades. If Apple is worth more than $3 trillion, for example, what might a company be worth that develops an effective cure for cancer? And how might that, and so much else, impact global wealth and growth overall? And similarly, at some point in our lifetimes, perhaps governments all over the world might finally realize that sound money would be better for all of us than the magic money trees, endless money printing, debasement, and inflation that we've all had to suffer in the last few decades. None of us can predict the future. But as I've said many times in this video series, and I'll say again, pessimists sound smart, optimists make money. Whatever may or may not happen in the years ahead, it is extremely likely that you will be far better off if you become an investor than if you don't, for all sorts of pretty obvious reasons, and nothing has changed in the 2 centuries since capital markets were invented. If you get to grips with this stuff and become an investor, even with very small amounts of money, it will almost certainly change the trajectory of your financial future in a very positive way. This is what traders call an asymmetric bet. It's the right thing to do, whatever happens. If you get into the habit of saving and investing each month, you're more likely to improve that habit over time. Many people earn more as they get older, for example, so might be able to gradually increase the amount they're saving and investing over time, which increases the chance that you get a great result still further. Something like 14 million people in the UK are earning the median UK salary or better, even in these troubled economic times. But many millions of these people are not making the best of their finances. This is really bad for them, and it's even worse for our society, which is why I'm on the mission to try and change that reality and spend the time making these videos. And if you agree with how important this is, please do join us in that mission. So that's it for today. As ever, if you want to ensure that you're one of the first to see our videos when they're published, please do click the subscribe and bell buttons. And please also think about subscribing to our free email service from the Plain English Finance website. And as I always say, and I also seem to keep saying nowadays how boring this is, but I have to say it nevertheless, if you want to hear from me more regularly than these videos every fortnight or so, please do connect with me on any or all of LinkedIn, Facebook, and X. So I hope that was food for thought and a useful video. And until next time, I wish you and yours the very best.